Hey, welcome to Friday. Hey, just a quick heads up. This Sunday, the 24th, Jeff is going to be behind the lectern delivering the message. So be a good change of pace. I'm kind of tired of hearing me. So tune in, listen to Jeff, give the message. And then I had said this past week that I would follow up the message that I gave to men on the 17th. After that, I'll bring back the message that what is God's job description for women? I'll bring that the following week. But tune in for Jeff. Here's a funny tweet. 3-year-old. Mom, what happens when people die? Is it like a popsicle where you just melt into the ground? Good question. Here's another one. Here's a bonus one. Mom, I like your coat. It looks like a rug. That's what you were after, wasn't it, Mom? Well, here's the question. This one's really deep. This one's really philosophical. It's just probably, you'll never get more spiritual than this question. What's your favorite ice cream? Huh? Everybody in your family probably has a different favorite ice cream. Great discussion question. And then, well, I won't say it. I was going to say, hey, go out and buy a pint of everybody's favorite ice cream, but don't do that. Favorite ice cream, discuss. Lessons from the life of Joseph. Yesterday, Jacob got the news. Unbelievable. For 22 years, he has thought that Joseph was dead. And now he's overwhelmed with the realization that Joseph, his son, is alive. Yet, wait a minute. It doesn't say this, but yet his thoughts have to be mixed with the reality that his other sons fed him a lie that they have been maintaining for 22 years. In verse 28 of chapter 45, when you look at it through that grid, I think it's interesting to note that Jacob comes to the place where he says this. He says, it is enough that Joseph is alive. Let's go see him. I think at that point, he had all those, wait a minute, the brothers have lied. I've been fed. What else have they lied about? He could have gone down that road, but then he just says, wait a minute. It's enough that Joseph is alive. It's enough that he gets to see him. It's enough that there is a new future, that there's a new beginning. For us, is the good news that God offers us enough? We have a tendency, Jesus died on the cross for us, but we still want to live in the past mistakes, and we still want to blame, but our words ought to be the same. It is enough that God offers us a new day. And this is the battle for the mature believer. Are we going to be bitter over past injustices, or the joy of the new life that God offers us on a daily basis? That's where we need to live. Not on the old bitterness and keep drumming that up. But this new day needs to be enough. Spend some time reading Genesis chapter 46, verses 1 through 34. There's some tedious verses in there. Skim through them. You'll know what I mean. Read chapter 46, verses 1 through 34. Now you know what I mean now that you've read that. Verses 8 through 27 is pretty tedious because what they're doing is they're identifying all 70 members of the household of Israel that will be in Egypt. I believe what we see here is probably if I'm miscounting, maybe the 6th set of tiers. Jacob and Joseph meet. Man, what a reunion. This is a reunion of reunions Father and son reuniting after 22 years. Joseph, the father of Egypt, goes to meet his father, the father of Israel. And again, he weeps on his neck. It is beautiful reconciliation. What a reunion. You know, this is a picture of heaven. Separated by sin, only to be brought back to reconciliation through the sacrifice of someone greater than yourself. That's what heaven is. It's the reunification that is brought about by the sacrifice of someone greater than yourself. But you know what's interesting is even in the midst of this, there's still a grain of deception in the household that remains. What am I talking about? Well, remember it describes the Egyptians have a disdain for shepherds. Shepherding is just not a profession that's highly esteemed in Egypt. So Joseph instructs them, hey, don't tell the Pharaoh that you guys are shepherds. And again, why? I believe that every deceptive act today has an unwanted bill to pay later on. I've often wondered about this passage if they would have just been honest and said, hey, Pharaoh, I know that the Egyptians, don't like shepherds. It's not part of your culture. All these situations, God's arranged it, but that's who we are. That's what we've done for generations. So can we work on that? I don't know what would have happened. I sense that they would have dealt with it. But what happens is one lie leads to another. And you got to constantly cover it up. And then before long, you're on a failure spiral. Because you've got to cover up this original lie, you got to cover up. And then you got to cover up that one. And then you got to cover up that one. And then you got to cover up that one. And it is endless and it is exhausting. Principle in the Bible, you know what? We can learn from someone else's mistakes. We can learn from Jacob's family mistakes. And there were many. These weren't perfect people, which ought to be encouraging to us. The Bible's not full of perfect people. It's about a perfect God guiding imperfect people. But principle in the scripture, we can learn from someone else's mistakes, which is an easier way to go through life. We can learn from Jacob. We can learn from Joseph's pride. He was bragging about his coat of many colors. We can learn from the jealousy of the brothers. We can learn from all of those things. And it makes going through life a lot easier. Or the alternative, which is what the road most of us take, is you learn from your own mistakes, which is always a lot harder. That's why the Lord gives us his word, so that we can glean from principles so that we don't have to make those same mistakes. So learn from somebody else's mistakes. It makes your life a lot easier, rather than the day somebody knocks on your door and says, hey, you're that man. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Pastor Jeff this Sunday, and we'll see you next week as we get back to Sniblets.